Well, first of all, I'd like to welcome everybody for coming. I would like to thank you, Scott, for putting together this presentation. I've had a preview of it, and I'm very much looking forward to it. I've got a dedicated radio that Heiko had fixed for me, and a Winlink modem that I picked up from Bill Rose. And so I'm very anxious to see this and get started. Number one. Number two, as we discussed, or we have discussed, or some of us have discussed in various venues, we will use the most, and forgive the expression, the most robust technology we have available to us. And the hierarchy that I see for amateur radio is basically analog voice is the foundation. Winlink is the next step up, where we can transmit ICS forms, basically emulate internet email. And then the next step up, of course, is mesh, which can emulate internet email, file transfer protocol, voice over internet phone, and a lot of other things. So, but this is a vital component of our communications hierarchy. And without belaboring the point, I'm going to turn the meeting over to Scott, or Art. Art, you're the MC. I'm going back on mute.
All right. Well, I'll just take that and shuffle it right off to Scott, because he's got the floor and the presentation, and I don't have anything to add. So go for it, Mr. Scott.
Okay, let me go ahead and share the presentation. Okay, everybody see that okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I guess I'll go ahead and at least start with a little background. I can thank you for all joining tonight. Hopefully the presentation will be of use to you. Just a quick background on myself. I'm relatively new to amateur radio. I got my technician and general license just about 2.5 years ago. I'm studying for my extra, so I'm fairly new. And kind of maybe my kind of technical background is primarily engineering, and a little worked for some software companies in there as well. Kind of quick history was I worked for Boeing in Huntington Beach for about 20 years, took an early retirement about 10 years ago, and then helped co-found a small satellite company in Irvine. We built very small satellites, and the company did phenomenally well. And basically outside investors came in, and I took that opportunity to punch out. And now I'm finding myself retired and spending my time doing amateur radio stuff. So that's kind of a quick background on myself. As I kind of outlined in the original invitation email, this series of tutorials are kind of starting fairly simple. I did a lot of review of what type of training material was out on the web, and was kind of disenfranchised because a lot of them just kind of threw you into the deep end. And I know some people were kind of turned off. They were interested in Winlink, but kind of turned off about trying to get started because they just kind of felt a little overwhelmed initially. So this was an attempt to kind of start a little slower, kind of that crawl, walk, run approach. So, so this first tutorial is primarily just an introduction and kind of general uses of Winlink. And then we kind of dive in quickly with an installation and setup, and then a simple message with a form. And then kind of initially focusing on just kind of default settings with the goal of getting everybody at least somewhat initially up and running and comfortable with the basic use of Winlink. And then in tutorial 2, going a little more deeper, stepping back a little and getting a lot more in-depth on some of the capabilities and other customization features within Winlink. And then for tutorials 3 and 4, we start then exploring how to best to hook up your radio to utilize Winlink. And then kind of ending that with the 5th tutorial of kind of addressing the larger other elements of Winlink. If there's a lot of interest and enough demand, we can focus on additional tutorials from there on. And at the same time, I put in there that possibly maybe we set up some peer-to-peer sessions, and I'll go into a little more detail on what that means in a later presentation, because one way to get more comfortable using Winlink is to start using it. And we have a little problem within the county here that there are not a lot of gateways. And so one of the quick ways of addressing that is setting up peer-to-peer sessions. So kind of with that is providing an overview, kind of the main focus of this tutorial is just really focusing on just the simple setting it up, getting it installed, and sending a message. And I have to preface that right off the bat to saying WinLink Express is extremely versatile. It is got lots of different built-in capability and a lot of tweaking that it can be done to work in different modes and work in different settings, or in different environments to support different operational needs. And so it quickly can be daunting. And so the approach I've taken is to take a very simple walkthrough of a very simple straight setup. And then from then future tutorials, we'll dive a little more into depth on how to make it more customizable and address some of the more advanced features. So moving on. So just kind of a couple charts here on kind of about WinLink and kind of get people excited about using it. The first thing I like to say, what can't argue about, is that it's free software. It's easily downloaded, installed on a Windows computer. They do recommend a small donation of like $25 is encouraged, and they kind of promote that by if you don't go and register and get that registration key, a little message window periodically appears just to kind of remind you. But a key feature, this is kind of foot stomp, this is the thing to remember for the final exam or whatever, is that what WinLink does is it enables you to be able to send email over the radio. So that means when no other capability exists out there, you still are able to connect with other WinLink users and other email users over the radio. What's also very good about the software is it's very mature. It's been around for, I think initial variations of the software existed back in the 1980s. So it's been well tested in a variety of operations and drills. And as a result, it's got a lot of features, as I mentioned, to support that versatility. It's adopted by a number of government agencies for all levels, at all levels, for continued communications and emergency use. One of the good things is it's been designed and built and operated and maintained by other volunteers, other amateur radio volunteers. And over those 20, 30 years that it's been being developed, a lot of the desired inputs and features have come in from the various users. And surprisingly, just in the year plus that I've been using the software, how many updates have occurred. It almost seems regularly that they continually to tweak it and come out with new minor versions of the software. But why do we need it? What's you know, everybody says, hey, I got my laptop, computer, and my internet connection, and I can go to my local Starbucks or whatever. And I think I speak for probably a fair number of you in saying one of the reasons why we're interested in amateur radio is to support communications infrastructures should existing other alternative communication methods not work. And clearly we're aware if there's going to be the big one, or there's a large event, a widespread event, some of the existing communication system or plain old telephone system, the POTS system, could be down. Power outages could cause internet outages. Cell phone usage would probably get inundated as well by either power outages or just overuse of demand that would just basically make using cell phones almost unusable. And so basically that's one reason I think why a lot of us have been involved in radio, is to be able to support that backbone or that alternative. But there's some limitations with using regular voice communication. And I point out the quote that I pulled from actually one of the latest QST magazine articles that was based off a Oregon tsunami exercise a couple years ago. And they were saying that basically they were not impressed with the amateur radio processes and their capability to be able to support the throughput of traffic needed. They primarily in the article point to a radio bandwidth, kind of more leaning toward higher frequency type mesh type of networks. But I think at the same time, as an intermediate step to support that higher throughput, the second bullet that I have in there is in terms of trying to utilize digital communication is an easy way to greatly increase that throughput. And one of the key thing, or several key features that Winlink offers is the fact that it has been around for several decades, and as a result, it's proven that it's highly reliable. That when a message is sent, it's accurately received, and that it does provide a bridge. Even if radio is out locally, you can bridge over to the internet. And so if you needed to get email outside of the current disaster area, you can. Because of the current way it's set up, there's a fair amount of redundancy in order to support communication either through the internet, through gateways, or through HF type of use of Winlink. One of the things is it does work well under most power levels. I know many of us have handhelds and we're concerned about the 5 watts. Yes, there is still the issues with the lower power. Higher power is always a little better, but it does still operate and work well, and I've used it on my handheld. Part of it also is the fact that there's that time independence. You can send a message not worrying that the person receiving it has to be live and up to receive it, that there are ways to send up messages using the backbone that will have essentially storage for later pickup. Again, as part of the being able to support relays, to be able to get by using relays, you're able to get past longer range needs. One of the key features of Winlink is that a lot of the ICS and other forms are built in to the software. That's just a part of the software, and they're updated frequently as well. And at the end of your shift, if you're using it, you can create an automatic message log and report is automatically generated. But a key feature of Winlink is it uses the standard email format, which is already widely used. Almost, I would imagine almost everybody is familiar with sending emails. And so it basically uses that same file format and can work with attachments. But because it's geared and designed to work over the radio, it does some message compression and decompression automatically. And again, tied to that email format, because it's a common method used, it basically enables itself to be widely used across a variety of different organizations and users. It's also supported by other non-ham agencies, other NGOs as well. So at this point, let me see, I don't know if there's any way of seeing, well, oh well, I was just curious if there's any, I can't see any chat, so if there's any questions that appear, I can't see them. So my recommendation is put them in the chat box if you've got any questions.
I'm watching it.
Okay, good, thanks. and then we'll definitely address them at the end here. Trying to go through this as quickly so we can have time for any questions or further discussions. So kind of with that overview of Winlink, let's kind of dive in and start using the software. So it's pretty easy. You just go to winlink.org, go to Winlink Express website. Down at the bottom is link to download. You click on the download and you kind of install it just like all the other software that you've normally installed. A couple of notes is that it runs only on Windows operating system computers. So those Mac or Linux users out there, you're going to have to run the software in a Windows emulation mode. Also, as I mentioned, the software's been around for a long time, and it's kind of gone through some revisions. So it was previously known as Winlink 2000 and also RMS Express. And I have a note there that's saying, if possible, if it's available to you, recommend that you install this on a portable computer, a laptop, or a Windows tablet, so it can be part of your Go kit. Okay, so once you start the software, the main window looks very similar to probably a lot of the other email software packages you've used. So we have the main menu bar across the top, a couple of little quick links underneath that, and over on the left side, under the folders, we have kind of the common email folders of your outbox, your sent items, read inbox, so forth. And then in the main pane that's in the center is your list of messages. So as you get more experience with Winlink and use it, you'll start seeing the list of messages start appear. And then when you highlight one of those messages in the list, a preview pane of the selected menu below it will show kind of a highlight of, or at least show the top of that message for you. Also, a key difference of this Winlink over previous or other email packages you've used is this pull down that's initially called Telnet Winlink. For now, just to leave it. Then what this means is for these demonstrations, all you're going to basically telling Winlink that use the computer's internet connection. So you're not going to be using a radio. You're just going to use the existing internet connection that your computer uses. We'll go into a lot more detail of what's underneath that pull down menu for later. But for now, this allows us to do a very quick test without having to worry about hooking the Winlink up to a radio. So once you first start up Winlink for the very first time, it will go to a Winlink Express setup window. And you can get to it this way manually, or it will automatically appear when you very first time start up Winlink Express. So what we're going to do is just kind of initially focus on kind of the minimum that's needed to complete this form, and that's highlighted with the red boxes. So you put in your call sign, put in a password, put in an email address that if you request them to send you a hint about your forgotten password, you know you'll get it. And then the other item is your grid square. I would imagine most of you are familiar with what your grid square is. If you're not, the last chart in this presentation gives you some links and some examples of grid squares in Orange County, so you can find out more information. We'll address the other options here in tutorial 2 in more in depth, but you can pretty much leave blank or leave the default settings initially. So when you go and hit update for the very first time, if your computer is connected to the internet, it will send out essentially this set up an account for you within the Winlink system for your very first time, for very first time users. This may take a few minutes, so if you're really fast in going from this menu or this window to sending a message, it may bounce back. So you need to give it a couple minutes for Winlink system to set up your account. All right. You're moving on. Okay, so we're now going to do pretty much for the rest of this is go through and put together a new message. So it's pretty much under the message menu tab. We're going to select new message, and then a new message window appears. And right now it's blank, but it probably looks somewhat familiar. There's a to, a CC, a subject, an attachment. There's a few other options in the menu that may be a little different that we'll go into later. But what we're going to do is send a new message with one of those forms using that are built into Winlink. So we're going to select the select template option, and then a new window appears, the template manager. And you're going to need to hit the little plus that's in front of the standard templates. And then you can see, oh my gosh, there's at least a couple of dozen different groups of forms listed. I think all buried under there, there's got to be at least a couple hundred forms in there. The ones that are probably the most applicable to emergency communication, for at least for us, are the Hicks forms, the ones about halfway down, and then a couple selections below that, the ICS USA forms. For this demonstration, what we're going to do is just do a Hicks 213 form. It's very similar to the 213 form that we've done as part of our voice exercises on the OCHEART net. So what you can need to do is highlight the Hicks 213 selection. You can double click on it or highlight it and then hit the select button. And then what will happen is a new window will appear in your default browser, whether that's Firefox or Chrome or any of those other, whatever your default browser is. You may need to give it a few seconds, half a minute for it to load up. But then what we'll do is this separate new window will appear, and it'll look very similar to the standard Hicks 213 form that we're familiar with. So what we're going to do is go fill this out. So I've gone through here and put in some example text, under the incident name, just Winlink test message. The to is OCHEART, but you could, in reality, it might be, St. Joseph Hospital emergency coordinator or whatever, who the message is to, who it's from, and in this case, subject is just a tutorial 1 test message. Over to the right, under the message number, it will automatically populate with your call sign and then a hyphen and then some number, depending on how many messages you've sent. In this case, we're just going to delete the call sign and just put in 001 or something similar. You can leave the default if you'd like, but it's just easier for tracking purposes just to set it to 001 or 1 or 01. Excuse me. For the date and the time, when you click on those fields, a separate little window will appear with the current date and the current time as appropriately, and allowing you to change it or just hit OK, and it will then fill in that field with the current date and the current time. And in this example, I've gone through and then put in a message. We've left the priority as just informal, informational, or low. And then I put down approved by as, again, me, but in reality, it'd be whoever the message was from. And then when we're happy with it, we basically just hit submit. Then what happens is a new window appears, basically a confirmation window appears, and it'll say to complete your form submission, click OK and close the open browser window. You'll return to the new message window so you can post your message to the outbox. So you click OK, and then I have a note that says you may need to close your browser window because your browser window a lot of times will stay open. Sometimes it fills the screen and it'll be blank. So you need to minimize it or close it. So after that, it takes you back to the new message window. And originally, when we opened this new message, it was blank. And now you can see it filled in some information. In the body of the message, filled in essentially the text that you put into that form. So this is all that information that was just filled into those various fields. In the subject, it put in the form number, and then the incident name, and then the message number. And also as an attachment, this is how Winlink communicates from Winlink client to Winlink client what form to use, because each Winlink user has a body of forms attached to their installation of Winlink. So this allows Winlink to know that, oh, I need to use that form with that text. And then we fill out the to. At this point, this is who the actual message is going to, which may not be the same person that the Hicks form message is for, but this is the actual Winlink recipient of the message. In this example, we're just typing an OCHEART. Basically, that's all we have to type in. Doesn't need to be uppercase, lowercase. It doesn't, just OCHEART. Doesn't have to say at anything, just OCHEART. And that's because ART has registered OCHEART as a tactical address within the Winlink system. So that basically means you're sending it to ART. Basically, and then we won't go into a lot of detail here, but you can easily just send another Winlink message to another Winlink account user by just typing in their call sign. So if you wanted to put in semicolon KM6RTE, I would get a copy of this message as well. Also, as I say, you can also put in somebody's regular email address. So you can put John Smith at, gmail.com if you want to as well. Don't do this as part of this exercise because we have to go back and change some default settings to make that truly effective. But just be aware that that's how you can work within the Winlink system or to any other valid email address. Okay, so once we fill in the to address information, we're going to post it to the outbox. And for those of you, or us, I guess, this also includes me, that remember when we had old dial-up, this is similar to that approach where you would, instead of just hitting send because your computer nowadays is always hooked up to the internet, this is basically just going and setting it in your queue in your outbox. So what we're going to do is just post this to the outbox. So that takes us, that window, new message window closes, and now we're back to the main Winlink window. If we highlight the outbox folder, you'll see our message now appears in the outbox. So this means it's queued up, ready to be sent. And since I've highlighted that message, in the pane below it, you can see the body of that message. It's also kind of just as a note, the message has an ID. And just for our purposes here, it ends in XXN. And I'll refer to that in the next message or next window, next slide. But we're now ready to send this. It's queued up in the outbox. And so what we're going to do is say we're still connected through Telnet Winlink, which means the internet. We're going to hit open session. So we click on open session, and basically a new Telnet Winlink session window opens, and it's initially blank. And what we're going to do now is say start. That's basically telling Winlink to go ahead and initiate communication, in this case with the internet, and send the message. Okay, and you'll see that now the message starts filling in very quickly. It says connecting to the CMS, which is the common message server. It's now connected. There's some dialogue. Basically, it's from my call sign. You can see basically now it says sending that message ending in XXN. So it's now sending that message. It completed it. It sent one message, and now if you had multiple messages in your outbox, it would then send each one of those. The end of the session, it tells you that it sent one message, it received 0. It put in the request to disconnect, and then it got confirmation that it has been disconnected. So basically that's the communication dialogue for this session. And as a result, once it's disconnected, woohoo, you just sent your first WinLink message. You're now basically sent that message off to the internet ether. Okay, so also once you've seen that you've successfully disconnected, you can hit the exit this WinLink session, which takes us back to the main message, main WinLink window. And if we highlight the sent message folder, you can see now this message has been sent. It's listed. So that pretty much you've now, as part of summary here, we've gone through and installed it. You've composed a simple message and sent it to OCHEART. I'm recommending that you kind of check maybe a few days, give Art some time, give him a break here, and check back on your WinLink Express. And basically how you check your messages, you just connect again, just say open session and start, and it will do that dialogue of connecting. And if you have any messages, it'll receive it and tell you that you have received a message. And then when you're done, you just go to the received folder or your inbox and you'll see the message. And when you open up the attachment, it'll look very similar to what I've shown there, that the basically reply coming back from Art.
Do you want to demo that?
No, it's okay. I think we pretty much kind of walked through that.
Okay.
Yeah. Then the only thing I ask is that if you could send me an email with the make and model of the radio that you plan to use with WinLink, it would be very helpful for me in planning the tutorials related to connecting to your radio. And you can either send it to my WinLink Express address, it was just KM6RTE, or you can send it to normal email, KM6RTE@gmail.com. You can send this either, again, I'm giving you the option, you can either send this through WinLink or go to your regular tried and true email software. I've included a couple of references there. It's always great to go to the winlink.org website. There's lots of useful information there, kind of peruse around and see what they've got. And also there is a great YouTube video out there kind of walking through very similar. What I've just done is kind of a real-time session for that. So it's a great also refresher as well. So that's pretty much it. I think that's pretty much it in terms of, let's see, where's my,
we have no questions at this point, at least in the chat box. So if you want to hop on and just unmute and ask the questions, that's fine. Put your hand up like Scott did. That'll work too. So we'll start with Scott Holcomb. Unmute yourself and ask away.
My understanding is that you can use VMware on the Mac to go in and transmit WinLink, but I also heard rumors that there's a WinLink Mac version. Yay, nay?
I have not seen anything, at least through the official winlink.org, saying supporting any other computer operating systems. It wouldn't be surprised that somebody has developed some version of a WinLink client that runs on other computers. Also, it's probably worth noting is I focused on WinLink Express. That's the most commonly used client for accessing the WinLink system, though there are other software applications out there that do enable you to connect to the WinLink system.
Scott, which email address do you want to give to the group? Tim is asking.
For what? For what? I mean,
well, he's asking. You wanted an email, so I'm guessing he's asking for.
That was
where you want that email to go to that you
I can,
That you want everybody to send you.
you can either or. You can,
Okay.
if you have Winlink up and running, you can send it to my Winlink address, just KM6RTE. Or if you want to send me an email through your regular email software, it's km6rte@gmail.com.
Okay, I can use the Winlink when I test it tomorrow.
Excellent. Thank you. Any other questions?
Yes, I had a question. Scott, this is Bill. I put some stuff in my deleted folder. How do I empty that out? Because I was just, playing with it, and I was trying to send some packets and they didn't go through anyway. So I deleted them and they went down in the deleted folder, but I don't know how to get them out of there or just to, get rid of them.
Yeah, let me, I'm going to stop sharing my screen here. Stop share. Okay, and I'm going to actually share Winlink. Okay, can you guys see my Winlink window here?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so what you're talking about is you actually have some items
Right.
in this deleted folder, and then basically, you
Oh,
hit
I
delete.
see.
You just highlight the messages that got listed here. Like in this case, I have these sent messages. You can highlight one of these and then just hit delete, and it deletes it.
Okay. Okay, thanks. I didn't see that up above.
Yeah.
I also have a question.
Go, Kevin.
Yeah. When the information, you put the information you download and your on your outbox. How long? I mean, then when the recipient starts a session, he'll pick up the email going to him. Is that information, once he downloads it onto his Winlink, is it off of the, what do you call it, the CMEs, I guess? Is it like almost like the cloud for Winlink? Once you download that, like if you send me a message and I open a session and go and then receive that message, does it leave a residual on the Winlink network, or is it gone at that point? Because where I'm going from on this thing is, let's say you want to have, somebody else maybe do it later on. Does it still remain on the, kind of like in the cloud of the Winlink, or is it once I download it, it's gone?
Okay, I guess I can address that kind of a couple ways. Is once you've sent the message, it moves from your inbox to your sent. So you always have a copy in your sent folder as long as you want to save it. But in terms of the message storage on the common message servers, that's a good question. And what I've heard is there is some residual recording of that message for 24 hours. And part of this and then kind of starts trickling into another discussion that we will go over in tutorial 2, when we're doing this over the radio, all the FCC Part 97 restrictions still apply. No profanity, HIPAA rules would still apply, and so forth. So if you want to send whatever naughty things over your email, use your other email software. Don't use Winlink.
In fact, Winlink will not send messages that have what it terms as curse words in it.
Yeah.
I typoed something and got that message and went, wait, time out. And so, when you add an H when you're sitting, and it just doesn't like that a whole lot. So it will filter it for you.
Okay. So it sounds like Art speaking from experience that there's already some type of message filtering going on. So, yeah.
So essentially, to answer my question, it is the CMEs will probably retain it for a while. In which if I send it, you go and receive it, it's still going to be on the CME for a while, maybe 24 hours in it. Does it just get displaced, or it automatically deletes it, or?
Yeah, I'm not really sure. I know that there's some type of storage. I don't know how it's handled.
I think it's all on the Amazon. I think it's Amazon Web Services.
Correct, yeah, Amazon Web Services support the CMS. Yeah, they made that move a couple years ago. But I'm not sure how long the storage is on that. So yeah. I guess.
Okay, saw another hand. Dave, did you have a question?
Yeah. On the that Aries presentation last week about HIPAA, and I think some of you were on that, if I remember correctly, they said it resides in WinLink for a week, and they recommended that you delete all that stuff from your computer after an incident.
Okay, good. That's good update, good info. I guess, any other questions?
Got none in the chat, so we're still looking for hands or just step up.
I just want to make a couple of remarks when everybody's done asking questions.
Go for it.
Okay. Well, first of all, outstanding presentation. I was in the insurance business for 40 years. I've seen a lot of presentations. I've sat through a lot of them. So this was very crisp, very clear, and very helpful to me being a new initiate to WinLink. And I'm going to try and get this all set up this week and send you my radio information by WinLink instead of by regular email.
Great.
Secondly, some of you, and I apologize, have heard this story over and over again, but those of you that were on the anthrax drill in 2015 probably remember that you couldn't even get a hold of net control because so many stations were asking for refrigerated trailers for morgues because bodies were stacking up, and law enforcement because the points of distribution had civil unrest, much less to get on there and start asking for proper dosages of doxycycline and ciprofloxacin. So the throughput issue is a major thing. And this is something I think will be critical for hospital emergency communications. So I want to thank Scott, and I want to thank everybody on the WinLink team. And I want to thank those that are getting up to speed on WinLink. And I very much look forward to tutorial number 2. Back to net control. This is KV6BXD.